welcome to our first seminar of the year. I know it's been a tough time for everybody, but it's really nice to see that people are joining in and wanting to learn a bit more about what's on offer. I know we're also overwhelmed with the level of knowledge and information we can get on the internet, and that's why we're so fortunate to have Karen Lowry, who's joining us this evening, who's going to do us really explain a bit more what the SEND local offer is about, and also really show us how to navigate it so that you've got a better idea of how to access some of the services. So with that, Karen, I'm really pleased to welcome you back. It's fantastic. We had a similar session in 2019, when we were still allowed to meet, face to face when we had a meeting in Heatham House. And I know that session was incredibly valuable. And we just thought that it was an ideal opportunity to invite you back. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Oh, thank you very much. That's lovely. And before we start, thank you to everybody for taking the time to come, especially in these horrible times that we're all living in. I know everybody's busy and stressed, and I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now and start with the presentation, just run through how I think it's going to go tonight. So let's have a look. So I want to share that. Right, so hopefully everybody can see the presentation that we've got up in front of us. And as I say, the presentation, or as Annette has said, the presentation tonight is going to be a guide to the SEND local offer for website for Kingston and Richmond. I work for Achieving for Children, and my title is, amongst other things, the SEND local offer website manager. Actually, I manage all the public-facing websites for Achieving for Children. So I'll explain a little bit about that as I go along. So last time I did the chat, some people didn't understand about Achieving for Children or what they are. So I'll just explain that Achieving for Children is a community interest company that was created by the Royal Borough of Kingston upon Thames and Richmond Council to provide their children's services. So at the time it was created back in 2014, basically everybody that was providing the children's services got tupied out of the councils to create this new company called Achieving for Children. And as such, we've taken all the information that you normally would have found on the council websites about children's services and put them on our own brand new individual website called AFC Info, and that website includes the local offer component of the information. Now, everywhere I go, people say, what is a local offer? That's a very funny term. It doesn't really mean much to anybody. It sounds like a deal in a supermarket, and I have some sympathy with that. But the term local offer was devised by the government as part of the SEND reforms, which came into effect in 2014. And actually, if you think about it, put simply, it's all the support and services available for children and young people with special educational needs or disabilities and their families in their local area. So if you live in Richmond, or you live in Kingston, it's within your area, in your borough, and if relevant, slightly outside of it. So for instance, that's sort of specific maybe when you're looking for activities. You don't just look for activities suitable for your child within your borough boundary. You could go a little bit further afield. So that's what it all is. And the government said every local authority had to have one. It had to have all that information in one place, easily findable on a website. It shouldn't be just a directory, and it should make families' lives easier. So, because one of the things families said was, we've got busy enough lives as it is. We don't want to spend our time scrabbling around looking for information here, there, and everywhere. And one of the saddest things for me is when I find out that people have got quite a long way in and their child's quite old and they there's a piece of information that would have been really useful to them if they'd known it earlier in the child's lives. So it's putting everything there on a website so you can find it when you need it, and hopefully, make your life a little bit easier knowing about it. So local offer includes education services, health services, social care services, leisure and social activities, transport, preparing for adulthood services, training, employment, education, and much more. So what is the local offer website? Well, when people talk about the local offer, we have to make the distinction. When they say, about the local offer, are they talking about the website, or are they talking about what I call the big local offer? So the local offer is all the services, and they're all placed together on a local offer website. So there's only one Send Local Offer website covering Kingston and Richmond. A lot of the services are available to you wherever you live. But some of them may be slightly different or provided by different organisations. And a good example of that would be health services, because Kingston and Richmond come under different health authorities. So during this session, what I'm going to try and do is to give you an overview of the Send Local Offer website and tell you about how it fits into the main Achieving for Children information website, which is called AFC Info. I've picked out a few key services and bits of information that you might find useful. I hope you do. But on the journey of us going around the website looking at them, it'll give you an idea of how you can find information, and you might see some other bits and pieces on there that is of interest to you. And so really at the end of this, you're going to end up with some homework. And the best thing for you to do is to take some time, sit down, go through the website and try to sort of read and understand about other services that might be of interest to you. I'm going to tell you how you can be involved because one of the things the Send Reforms has said is that the big local offer, like all the services and the development of the website and what that it sits on, needs to be co-produced with parent, carers and children and young people, and also stakeholders. So that's what we try to do right from the start of the development of the Send Local Offer website. We were involved with parent and carers and young people, and they've helped us develop it and design it right from the start and to get it where it is now. And they are still influencing changes of some developments on the website, which we're going to be making soon, which I can tell you about as well. I'm going to tell you about how you can keep informed and up to date about services. And then, as Annette has said, I can answer some questions. I can answer general questions about information on the website. I can't answer detailed questions about personal circumstances or particular service offers, but I'm quite happy to take away any questions you may have, or signpost where you can pose those questions, or you can email them into me after the session and I will endeavour to get an answer for you. So this presentation will be available to you after this evening, and there are some links on here to some of the things that I'm going to cover through the evening and the presentation. It's going to be a bit of me just whizzing around the website in front of you. As I say, we're going to break it up with taking some questions. There's a few little videos on there that might be of interest for you to look at. But really, just, I want you to understand how the website works and how you can use it in the future, and hopefully that you can be parent ambassadors going forward and telling other people and families that you know, so that they can use it as well. So I'm going to close down the presentation now and get myself onto the actual website, or let's go onto it here. Should be able to see. So can everybody see that?
Yes, that looks good.
Okay, right, I'm just going to get my presentation up on my other screen so that I remind myself where I am. So where we are now, this is showing the home page of the Send Local Offer part of the website. And what I'm going to do is take you back to the front page of what we call the AFC Info website by clicking here. So this is the larger Achieving for Children information website that contains information about all the services that Achieving for Children and partners and local organisations provide. And it's divided up into 3 sections. There are shortcuts here at the top to the Send Local Offer, to the Young People section, which is youth services, and the Community Information section, which is kind of a hybrid, but basically it's got things in it like family information, childcare, early years education, that kind of thing. And the main ways into those sections of the website are further down the page here. So everything is in the local offer, essentially. All universal services are available to families that have got children with special educational needs. Of course they are. So the whole of the website is relevant for people, to be honest with you. So I would recommend that you kind of have a look through the whole website to find out information that you might be looking for. But tonight we're going to concentrate on the Send Local Offer section, which is specifically about services that are available for families that have got children with special educational needs. So I'm going to click into that and take us back here to the front screen and give you a little overview of what is on the local offer in terms of the functionality and how you can go between one or the other. And then after that, we'll look at some individual service information. So as I say, we're on the home page of the local offer at the moment, and it looks like its own individual website. And we want to keep it that way because there is so much information about Send services and news and updates that really it warranted its own website and not just a sort of section, plonked on a general children's services website. It amazes me really how we've ever done without one before. And when you think about what information might have been on a council website about services for children with SEND before, this has just increased, I don't know, 1,000-fold really. And to be honest, I think that sometimes makes it a little bit difficult to manage. And one of the lots of feedback I get is people saying, there's so much on the local offer website, I just don't know where to start. And I don't know what to say about that really, because the code of practice, lists what we need to have on it, and that's what we've got on it. And there is so much out there, even though it mightn't feel like that to you sometimes. So what I ask is for feedback on how we can make that more accessible for you, and we can go through that later. But essentially, here we are on the front page of the website, and you'll see we've got this navigation toolbar across the top with the links back to the other sections of the website. So we're on this top navigation toolbar here, and these sections here, which I'm going across and they're turning yellow as I'm doing that, represent the main sections that are on the website. So I'm going to sort of click through them and give you an overview of what's on them, and then go back to this one here, information and advice. So information and advice, if I click on that, you'll see the screen changes to all these boxes with images in them and headings. So these are basically web pages and sections that have got all the main information about services and support and eligibility criteria and all that kind of thing. So the main information is contained in these sections. So if you remember that, and we go back up to the toolbar at the top, and I go on to the next section, also contained on the website is a What's On calendar, and that should be quite self-explanatory. But in here, I add, and also organisations in the community can register on the site and add themselves, events that are going on for children and families with SEND in the area, and sometimes nationally. If there's anything that's really interesting, I try to add it in there, so we've got a really rich sort of calendar of events and things that's been going on. So when we first went into lockdown, we were just all over the place and the calendar went blank. But now that people have got themselves together more and there's a lot of online offers, I'm gradually going through trying to add information about stuff that's going on online for people at the moment. And you can search by things that are just for children and young people, things that are there for families to take part in altogether, things that are just for parents and carers, professional sessions, and if we're having consultations or other people are asking for your views, they will be in there as well. Down here, there's a calendar on the other parts of the website, which we mentioned. So you can flick from this calendar to the calendar that's on the youth services or on the family information services, the community section, which tends to have sort of universal things or mainstream events that are available to everybody. But we're going to concentrate on the local offer calendar today. So you can see on there that there's a lot of stuff going on, even though we're on lockdown. And if I don't put individual details of an event that's going on, what I'll do is I'll just at the moment put a generic entry in there to say this organisation's got a lot of stuff going on online. It's a changing feast at the moment. Just go on their website to find up-to-date information about what's happening. But there's quite a rich mix out there, which is great at the moment. Latest news is basically a news feed where we can put news information, stuff that we need to let you know, whether it's local or national. So that's worth having a look at. The local offer directory search is a searchable directory of services and organisation, really. So mostly you'll find that this is organisations that are independent of the local authority. So it'd be voluntary sector organisations, national organisations. And if I search in there for ADHD, let's get in there. Let's see, come on. Can't tell if it's chundering away there. It's not going to do it for me. It's not moving for me. I don't know why that is. But if you search in there, you can search by these categories down the side, or you can search by keywords in there. What happens is that you'll get a list of organisations appearing. There we are. That's an easy way to do it. And you can click on the details to find out more about that organisation. So here we have the entry for ADHD Richmond and Kingston. And if I've had the time or if that organisation has been proactive and logged on, you can scroll down the directory entry to find information about the organisation. And down the bottom, you'll be able to see events that they've got coming up or activities, whether that's regular clubs for children and young people or one-off events like this evening. They're all down the bottom of the organisation entry. And then when you click into them, it takes you into the What's On calendar. And then you can read more about that organisation and the event. So that is the directory search. And then on the local offer, we've got a young people's hub. And this is a section that has been designed by young people, and they kind of influence the content that goes on it, really. And how this came about was when we initially started developing the local offer and we had to co-produce it with parents and carers and young people. It was very difficult to meet everybody's needs and expectations about what they wanted to see on the website. So what we did was we came up with a specific area on the website for young people themselves where they could suggest information. There's accessible information on there aimed at young people, or it could be in an easy read or accessible format. Young people could tell us or tell the community about their stories and experiences, and we invite young people to submit information and stories about themselves on there if they wish to do that. There's not a huge amount on there, and young people seem to be quite shy about doing it. But we do encourage young people, if they've got something to say and they want other people to know about it, to send us information to go on there. So if I click on this one at the moment, Tomorrow's Leaders, this is a publication that's recently been published by the Council for Disabled Children, and it features young people who are going on doing things in their lives and in community. And 3 young adults from Kingston and Richmond, Sam, Rosalind and Joe, feature in the magazine. Joe is a young man with autism who actually did some work experience with me on the local offer, working alongside me. And he's over 25 now, so he's not involved with young people's participation activities anymore. But he's gone on to do training nationally for national disability organisations, and that's lovely to see. So we like to try and gather inspirational stories about local young people and just have information about what they're getting up to on the website. Similarly, with young people's messages and views, we try to gather information about what young people think about things. And it could be something like, if I click onto this, Karina is a young woman who did a video message which was about how young people should be considered when they're having physiotherapy treatment and things like that. So that kind of thing we encourage up there as well, so that young people can have their voices heard and that people working with them, professionals and that, can see that kind of information on the website, and that can be shared and empowering. The last tab up the top is Send Consultation Hub. And as you probably know, you've probably been surveyed out. We constantly are asking people for their views and their feedback about services, and all that information, past surveys and consultations, and the current plans for developing SEND services are all listed on this hub here. So if you're interested in that level of detail, then I suggest you could have a look on the SEND Consultation Hub and have a good look around on there. So are there any questions about that at the moment?
We've had one question from Marta, who said that she was looking for SEND sports offer, and she was referred to RISE, and she couldn't find any information on RISE in respect of their offering for under 5s. Is that something that she would need to find on the search bar, or how would she go about finding that information?
Okay, so that leads us quite nicely into looking at the information and advice section. So there's a specific section on here called Activities and Clubs for Children and Young People, where I have tried to list links to all the providers that offer activities, and I've tried to categorize them into these different sections here. So that is a good place to start. So if we go into sports, now I did see something about RISE, I'm thinking, and I have to apologise at the moment, because of the weird times we're in and the amount of information, some of these services may not be offering their normal offer at the moment. And I think obviously RISE can't do face-to-face things at the moment. And RISE actually are one of the providers that is really good at normally logging onto the website and adding their details. And I think because of the way things have been, they haven't actually had a chance to do that yet. So I would suggest anybody looking.
If you look under football, there's a reference to RISE.
Yes.
Which I thought.
So if I click on that, that will take us onto the Richmond website where RISE have most of their information. And you can see that at the moment, those activities are not running. They've got some activities for adults, which, obviously some young people over 18 might be able to do. But yes, in normal times, hopefully you would be able to click on that and see a whole range of things, that are happening at the moment. But because we're not in normal times, it's a little bit, you have to bear with us for that at the moment. But that's a really good place to start. And as I say, when things are running normally, looking in the What's On calendar as well would be a good place to start to see if there's anything happening on there that you think your child or young person would be interested in. So if we look here, there's advice on choosing activities, and we've got some links to safeguarding advice on there and how parents can make sure that providers that are offering activities are safe and what to look for. And there's links in there to short breaks information, which I'll talk about a bit later, but it does contain some links into funding streams that parents can apply for to use money for their children to access activities in the community. So we'll go through that before, but I would suggest starting there would be a good one to actually find providers that are offering activities for children and young people with SEND. While we're on this section, I want to talk about participation activities for children and young people. Now, every area should set up particular activities for children and young people so that they can get involved and their voices can be heard and they can influence services going on locally. And we're lucky in Kingston and Richmond that we've actually got a participation team. It's very, very small, but for a small team, it does amazingly well in getting all sorts of children and young people involved in projects. So people can take a part in that up to the age of 25, whether or not they've got an education, health and care plan. And the participation projects that young people get involved in there's regular ones that go on, but there are also some sort of one-off things that are really interesting for young people. So some of the things that young people get involved in is making sure that information is easy for young people to understand, working with professionals. A professional comes up with a leaflet or something and they send it to what's called an easy info group. Then young people have a look at that and then report back to professionals and work with professionals to make information easier to understand. Young people get involved in Recruits Crew, which is actually interviewing people for jobs, and all kinds of things. And I would encourage you, if you've got a young person looking for something to do, to think about getting involved in participation, because apart from it being like fun and social and really interesting, and it does make a difference, it also gives young people skills. They get confident, they get training and experience in working alongside professionals and other people. And a lot of the young people that do it find that it's really, really an interesting thing to get involved in. So that's something to bear in mind. And if you contact the participation team, they're really, really good at sort of a slow burn with young people, meeting them. I mean, in normal times, they would probably maybe come to your house to meet the young person and to encourage them gradually to get involved. And young people that have been involved, they don't regret it. And the young people that I mentioned before that were on the Young People's Hub, they came through the participation service. And I don't think they'd be doing what they do today, which is training on a national level, if they hadn't got the skills that they did from taking part in participation. So I really, really encourage you to have a think about that. Does anybody have any questions there?
No, but maybe somebody will type up some, but no questions specifically.
Okay, so as I said, we are on the information and advice section, and what I'm going to do now is I've just picked a few areas which I thought would be good to flag up to you, and I'm going to go through them. stop me if if you think that's not relevant. But I think by way of doing that and me navigating around the website, you'll be able to see other information that you'd find interesting. You can go back on and look about it later. But I mentioned to you before about us working with parents and carers to develop the website. And as a result of doing that and working with one of the parent carer forums, we developed this new section here, which is called New to Send, because parent carers told us that, when people maybe get a new diagnosis for their child, or they've been told, or they realise that their child has a special educational need, they don't know what to look for, and they find it quite overwhelming. So they said it would really be helpful if we had a section which just gave us an overview of some of the basic things that we need to know. And so with them, we developed this new section called New to Send. So I thought that might be a good way to start, just to go through. And there might be some things in there that you didn't realise that you or your children would be entitled to. So I'm going to scroll down this page and sort of look at the links and see where we go from there. So on every page on the website, there's a link to a jargon buster. You can click on that and it will take you to a section that explains jargon, basically. Every public sector website is supposed to be accessible in terms of its functionality and also the way that people write information on there. That is sometimes not easy to do, and some people are better at it than others. But, we try not to use jargon, but where we do, we try to explain it in the jargon buster. So that's a good thing to know that is available on the website. Some of you may have noticed on the top website there was a little button called Recite Me, and this is an accessibility toolbar that we've recently added to the website to help people use it and to make it more accessible. So if you do have any needs to help you understand the website and you click on the Recite Me toolbar, it launches this toolbar up here, and it's got a read aloud function on it. It can turn the website into other languages, which it's done very helpfully for me there, and I hope I can get it back into English, having done that. You can customize the toolbar to, if you need to, make it bigger, change the color settings, anything like that. So that's useful to know. The read aloud function it reads aloud in several languages as well. So that's a good thing to know if you're supporting people or families that you're friends with that need some help, but they need some help translating the website. That's a good thing to think about up there. So I'm hoping, just by going back, oh good, I'm going to close that down. Yeah. So who to contact for advice and support? So there's a section on the website which contains information for carers. And if you click the link to go on that website, that shows you all the national and the very many local organisations that are there to provide information and support for carers. Some of them are disability or condition specific, like NAS, the National Richmond Autistic Society. Others are pan-disability. So it's worth having a click round and having a look at that section to see if there are any organisations on there that you weren't aware and what they're offering. Every local area must have, by law, an independent information, advice and support service for SEND. And in our local area, we have the SENDIAS service. So it's worth you having a look and to see what they do as well. And if I click on their page, I've got a little video here, which I'm just going to play, which explains what the SENDIAS service does.
What is an information, advice and support service? IAS services provide information, advice and support to children and young people with special educational needs or disabilities, also known as SEND, and their parents. the information, advice and support IAS services provide can be about health, social care and education. The service will make sure you understand what support and services you are entitled to and how to access it. Children and young people with SEND can contact or visit their service independently or through their parents. IAS services are statutory. This means that every local authority in the country has to have one. This is because being able to have free information, advice and support is a legal right for children and young people with special educational needs and or disabilities and their parents. The service is free and confidential, meaning unless someone is worried about your safety, anything you say to someone who works for the service will not be shared.
I think you've had enough of get the idea about what the SENDIAS is about. There are other organisations that provide independent advice free of charge alongside the SENDIAS or together with the SENDIAS service. And if you click on the page, other organisations offer that, you can see who they are as well. So the SENDIAS is the official service that receives the funding to provide that service in our boroughs, but a lot of the other voluntary organisations provide that service as well. And it's up to you to choose which one you would like to go to for support and help. You don't have to choose SENDIAS, you can just see which one is going to be suitable for you. Good sources of information and support is your local parent carer forums, and we have two. There's a Kingston Parent Carer Forum and a Richmond Parent Carer Forum. They're both quite newly formed, but they are looking for parent carer forums to follow them or get involved with them. And I suggest you do that because they are a really good source of peer support and also a way of you feeding back feedback and having your voice heard, because those two forums work very closely with the local authority through Achieving for Children, and you have quite a lot of influence that way and can sort of harvest the voice of everybody, of all parent carers, and put that forward in the various meetings and things that they get involved in. Parent carer needs assessment. Now, every parent carer has a standalone right to their own needs assessment. And basically, you know, if you're not okay and your needs are not being looked after, then it's going to be very difficult for you to carry on caring. So if you think you need support as a parent carer, then I would suggest that you look on the section about that, and you'll see there's a form there that you can fill in. You put all the details about what you think your needs are and what your experience is currently, and that goes into the single point of access, and they will look at that and assess that and contact you. And if they can, they will come forward to you with, you know, an offer of support, whether it's from highlighting services that are in the local offer, or whether it's a family support worker or whatever. But if you feel you need that yourself, I would recommend that you do put in for an assessment. So brothers and sisters and young carers, a lot of young carers, a lot of children don't realise that they're classified as a young carer, and don't realise there's an awful lot of support out there. And there are two organisations that support young carers, one in Kingston and one in Richmond. And they offer lots of support for children that are carers or that are brothers and sisters of children and young people with SEND. Again, you know, their wings are a little bit clipped at the moment because of COVID, but they're still doing things online. But they offer, you know, online support and all that kind of thing at any time. And when things open up, they do some really fabulous activities, especially during the school holidays. So I recommend, if you've got other children, that you have a look at that and see whether it's something that they might be interested in doing. So links in here to disability allowances that people are eligible for. We've linked here to the contact website because I really don't think you can get better than all the information they have on there about the array of different disability benefits and how you can apply for them. And the SendYes service can offer you advice and support on understanding about those benefits, whether you'd be eligible and how you can apply for them. So don't be alone on that. Have a read up about it and then contact SendYes and they can talk you through that. For those of you that have got younger children, it's good for you to have a look at the childcare and early education section on the website, because certain children are eligible for free childcare if they've got a disability allowance or an education, health and care plan. And there's support available to you to help you find that through a childcare brokerage service. Now, I know at the moment support in schools is a really big thing for people, and this section here explains all about the support your child should be entitled for in school, whether or not they've got an education, health and care plan under the SEND support system. And really important to read up information about reasonable adjustments, which are often really small but crucial changes that people can put in place and teachers can put in place for children that cost nothing but can make a really major difference to people's experience and children's experience at school. So really good idea to have a look at that. There's a little video on there that explains all about it. And there's a table on here which has got some real life examples of reasonable adjustments that have been made in schools for children by different issue. And if you scroll right the way down, there are some ADHD examples. And I think we also link on there to the list that ADHD, Richmond and Kingston have put together. So two things. One, have a look on there and see if there's something that would be very useful for your child when they're back in school. And also, if you can suggest some that would be really helpful to schools or other parents, then do please email them in and we can add them to this list so it can help other families.
Karen, can I just interrupt?
Yes.
Can you tell us exactly how we find this? Was it new to send section where this is displayed, or which section is this on?
So this is in the inclusion and exclusion section. And that's one of the picture tiles on the front page. And it's called inclusion and exclusion because it has all the information on there about how to make reasonable adjustments and the exam and test arrangements for pupils with SEND. And when children are older, inclusion advice for employers and employees. But it also has information on there about school exclusions and what the law is around school exclusions. So a really important section to have a look at in terms of reasonable adjustments and the law around school exclusions. And there's a really useful video on there, links to some really useful websites, and a booklet that was developed by the previous Parent Carer Forum, which sets out really basic language, what is a legal exclusion and what isn't. So in that section, inclusion and exclusion, make a note of that one because I think that's got some really key information that a lot of parents just don't realise.
Karen, can I just check with you, the section just before that you were talking us through, was that the new to send one?
It was, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's this one. And then going through here, what happens if SEND support is enough? So that's all about the processes for applying for an education, health and care plan assessment, links to the information about that and the forms for doing it. And again, reminding you that you're entitled to free support on that through the SendYes service or one of those other organisations that I talked about. So don't be alone when you're doing that. It really helps to have somebody talk you through that and just demystify it for you. So further down here, we've got links to applying for school, home to school transport, which is self-explanatory, and it's got the policies on there depending on what borough you're in. And then here, the short breaks. Now, every local authority has to provide a short breaks offer to families with children, and so children can have some fun and get away from their parents, and parents get a break from caring. And it comes in different formats. There's like an offer that every child or young person can take advantage of if they meet the criteria here. And then some children who have more assessed needs are entitled to a sort of another layer of short breaks, if you like. And then alongside that, there's an offer of funding that you can apply for. And that is £140, which usually you can use to fund an activity. But as there's not many activities going on at the moment, there's a little bit of flexibility with that activity fund money. And you can apply for £140 for equipment or something fun. Here's some examples there. That you can do, while we're in this situation and you're trying to find fun things for your children to do. So that's the activity fund. So make a note of that and have a look. And if there's something, apply for that money while it's there, because normally that would be spent on, people applying for things to do activities. So you can be creative with that. Okay, just go back. The additional support funding. Now, at the moment, I don't suppose many people are claiming for that, but what the additional support funding is for is if you want your child to take part, or your child wants to take part in a mainstream activity, but they're probably going to need a little bit of support from another person there to help them do that. The provider can apply for some additional support funding to enable them to get an extra member of staff on to, provide one-to-one support for your child while they're taking place in that activity. And all these other boxes down here are the commission sort of short breaks that normally would be running in normal times. And obviously they're a little bit challenged at the moment as to what is running. So have a look through that and you'll be able to see what kind of things running and what the alternative offer is at the moment. So I'll go back to that new to send section. And I just want to tell you here about the Register for Children and Young People with Disabilities. So again, this is something that every local authority has to have. And basically, it's a list of children with disabilities in the local area. And the benefits of being on it are that, one, you can apply for an identity card, which you can use to prove that your child has got a special educational need or a disability. And sometimes that can help you get eligibility for carers discounts and things in cinemas or bits and pieces like that. It means that if we've got your name and address, that we can keep in contact with you with information and newsletters, invite you to give feedback and things like that. And you can also, feed information back into us. So at the moment, it's called a Disabled Children's Register. But because we're very, very keen on widening out the contact we have with families who have got children who may not have an education, health and care plan, but are receiving SEN support through their school, we're just about to relaunch this and call this the Register for Children with Special Educational Needs and Disabilities. And we want to encourage everybody to sign up to it so that we've got a two-way conversation going with you and you with us, and that we can really get a sort of set of information about the children in the local area to make a difference. So the information on the website now is about the old register, but if you keep an eye on that, that's just about to relaunch with a slightly different offer. And then last but not least down here, we already have a send newsletter, which I send out newsletters, not in a regular, it's not monthly or anything like that. But when there's news to tell, I distribute a send newsletter. And if you sign up to that, you will be subscribed and you can receive that. So has anybody got any questions at this point? Because I'm going to go on to a different section now. I'm aware that I'm droning on here about the website. How are you finding it?
I think keep going. Keep going. Okay.
So I'm going to jump now to the emotional health service information, which is on the website. Now, the emotional health service is CAMHS level 2. It's called the emotional health service locally because working with young people, the young people told the CAMHS level 2 service, if you like, that they didn't really like the name of that. It didn't really say what it does on the tin, and it would be better if it was called the emotional health service. So emotional health service, CAMHS level 2. And the information, the full information about their offer is on the young people section of the website. And so I'm just going to click to that to show you that, because I know everybody's mental health is challenged at the moment. And I want you to know about all the information that is on this section. So you can see about the emotional health service, explaining how it links in with CAMHS. But there's a page here which explains types of therapies that the emotional health service offer. And you can scroll down here, and this is a brand new video that's just gone on about art psychotherapy. And I'm hoping that the service are going to, do videos explaining about other different types of therapy that they offer. But this is really useful to know because, if your child is going to be seeing the emotional health service and, they may have suggested they're going for art psychotherapy and you think, well, what the hell is that? This really explains really nicely, I think, about what it is. So I'm aware of time, so I'm not going to play the video for you now, but I really suggest that you go back and have a look at that. A new thing that's launched is the Emotional Health Service Resource Hub. And, we all know that waiting times for mental health services are long at the moment. So this has been launched to help you maybe help yourself while you may be waiting for an appointment for your child. And again, I would say have a real good look around all this. Under each one of these headings, there's links to local organisations, national organisations, and resources that mental health organisations have made available. But down here, there is an online workshop library of videos that the Emotional Health Service have made available on a range of topics for parents to look at. And you can either click here or you can click there and you go on to the showcase to see all the videos and things that are available for you to have a look at. So I'm now going to switch quickly back to the local offer, and I'm going to show you information on here about questions that people are asking during the COVID times and lockdown, because I know from talking before we started the presentation that some people have questions about the support that schools are offering at the moment. How does it all work and what have you? So I'm going to suggest that you have a look at the frequently asked questions under this COVID section on the Send Local Offer. There's all these different headings here, but under this Send Services for COVID-19, we've just answered quite a few questions that may be the kinds of questions that you are asking. Jonathan Rourke, who's the manager of the SENDIAS service, working with local organisations, got a whole bundle of questions together when the last lockdown was announced. And if you scroll down these questions, you may very well find the answer to some of the things that are vexing you at the moment about the online offer from schools, how they're working out who should be going in, who counts as vulnerable, and all your legal rights and things. So I would suggest, with regard to that you go away and have a read of those afterwards. And if you have, as a result of reading that, you've got a frequently asked question, then you can email in to me and I can put that to the Send team and other services and get that answered for you. Similarly, there's updates about therapy support on here and how those services are being offered at the moment, and links to information that you can use at home. And there's other information on here about how to access support as a vulnerable family. For instance, the winter support funds and support with getting equipment for online learning. So I would suggest you have a really good look around on there, because if you're struggling at the moment due to this COVID and lockdown situation, you might find something really useful on there. And it's come up to 9 o'clock. I'm just going to say the last thing I want to bring to your attention before I take your questions is we've got a survey that's just launched this week, and it's on the Send Support section. And we want to know the views of parents who've got a child or a young person. They don't have an education, health and care plan, but they're at school and they're receiving SEN support. It doesn't have to be school. They might be in an early years setting, or they could be at college or what have you. And we're really interested in knowing, what's happening for you at the moment. Generally, when we weren't in the COVID situation, your child's normal offer and support at school, or what's happening for them now that we've gone into this situation here. So we really want to encourage people who've got children in those circumstances to fill that in. So if I could ask you to do that one thing, that would be fantastic. Okay, so we're at 9 o'clock, and I think that's me going through the website for now. On the end of the presentation, which will be circulated afterwards, there are some links to contact me, because part of my job, apart from managing the website, is that I am the person that's at the end of the phone line or the email or the contact us thing on the website. So if you email in there, it'll come into me, and if I can't answer, I can signpost or send your query on to somebody else who may be able to help you. Okay. So
wonderful, Karen. I'm just wondering if it may be easiest, instead of everybody typing up their questions, if you want to unmute yourself, obviously not all at once, but if you do want to ask questions, then I'm very happy for people to unmute and raise their question, or ask their questions. Anybody with any particular further questions?
Hi there. I had a question. I don't know if this is considered specific, but when you were saying about the new register that's coming out, should you wait to sign up for that card, or should we do that now?
As it is at the moment, there's quite specific criteria for getting on the register. So because it's just called the Register for Children with Disabilities, and the criteria for getting on it are those criteria for getting extra help through the social care team for children with disabilities. So when we relaunch it, we want to make it sort of lighter than that, really, to say you don't have to meet any criteria. Just if you're in the local area and you've got a child with a special educational need, a hidden disability or whatever, you can sign up for it. And the new card we're designing, sort of says on there, not all disabilities are visible. And it's a much more professional looking card than the one we've got at the moment, which is, I suppose people, it's a bit Blue Peter. It's like a bit of cardboard with laminating on it. We're going to have them more professionally done. So I would say if you don't think you're going to meet the criteria, then just wait. It'll probably be in the next 2 months we'll launch it and apply for it then.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful. And thanks for this. This session's been very, very insightful. So
oh, good. I'm really glad.
Norma's got a question. Norma, just unmute yourself.
Sorry, I've just done it. I want to say thank you as well, because it's the first time I've seen all of this information in one place, and I didn't realize it was all in one place and so readily available. Is there not some way that we could have almost like a welcome pack when your child's put into the system? Because it's been quite difficult to find, like, I didn't know half of this stuff. And we've been in this for a couple of years already, sort of going through. My son's got to skip, my youngest. So it's almost like you need like a welcome pack or something that tells you all of this information, or where to find all the information from one of your, from an OT or from one of the people you meet along the way, so that because I find there are a lot of people that I've met now through this that have no idea about all of this stuff as well. And I only kind of came across some of this by accident through rules and them sending me links to things.
Yeah, it's
and I only found out about rules by word of mouth. And no one gives you this kind of information when you first get into the process, and it would be really helpful.
No, I mean, it trying to sew up all those sort of gaps where parents may be going, and that would be the point to tell them about the information. That's an ongoing thing. That's part of my job as well, is promoting the local offer. And normally we would have leaflets going out here, there and everywhere. We do a lot of work with all the professionals that you would come into contact with. So hopefully, wherever you go, somebody should have a conversation with you and say, whether it's your childcare setting or a health visitor or a professional.
They have, but they'll tell you one thing.
Yeah, to be honest, there's so much on it, as you can see, that to do a welcome pack that would meet everybody's needs in a conventional way, in terms of printing them out. To be honest,
they just all sent you to that website.
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't even know.
Yeah, well, there are leaflets, and what we try to encourage is everybody, all the local voluntary organisations, to have the link back to the local offer website. Every school has to have their own SEN information report on their website that should be easily findable from the first page, and that should all link back to this website. And most things are online now, and we don't sort of print out physical packs. So I suppose that new to send section is our kind of beginning.
Quite important,
Yes, of having that.
We were told to apply for a skip, and I didn't even know what that was until halfway through the process. I couldn't find anything that explained what a skip was. So that was really interesting as well. There's not a lot of information.
The skip information has just appeared on the website, actually, and it's under the autism section, information for schools. Yeah. And because it is something that a school or a professional applies for and not a parent.
Slightly different.
Yeah, it's slightly different, but it is up there now, and it clearly explains, as a parent, you can't apply for a skip. But if you're working with professionals, they will come to the conclusion that your child, would benefit from having one. So information about that is on there. And the way that would kind of work would be that you would be linked in with those services that can apply for one, and they would do it that way. And that's how you kind of sort of find out about things.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, this has been really helpful. Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's good. I mean, one of the things that parents have fed back to us is there is no sort of main information point that parents can go for that can hold their hand to go through a website like this. And there are bits and pieces of that. Like, I'm the website manager, but by default, I've ended up being at the end of the phone line and the email address and doing things like this, because by managing the website, I've got an overall view of it. So I do that a little bit, but I don't advertise my job as being an information point for parents. The SendDias service can navigate the website, but really what parents are saying they need is, you get a diagnosis or you get this, and then you can go to these people and they can almost it's a bit like social prescribing, isn't it? They can sit down with you and say, right, you're going to need this, you need to know this, and this.
Yeah, it's almost like a welfare check, but for all the services you will need at some point, depending on your disability or your diagnosis.
Yeah, well, as I say, I hope that new to send goes some way to doing that. So, because when I'm out and I'm doing a talk and I've got somebody comes up to me who's got a 14-year-old and they say, I didn't know they were entitled to short breaks. I'm like, oh, how did you get to that age without knowing your child's entitled to a short break? And I hate that when that happens. So, part of that. Yeah. So local offer has only been.
You've raised an interesting point. Maybe Karen, it is thinking about maybe designing a very simple poster that can be posted at GP surgeries or in schools.
just to direct you to the first place where you can start to get all that information, because there's lots of support and lots of information out there, but they're kind of quite specific. So like rules will direct you to what they're doing, and you have to pick out what you think you need. They don't tell you what you need to look at, which seminars to attend and stuff like that. They leave it to you to decide what you think you need. So I've attended a whole load of things that aren't completely relevant to what I need, but they kind of give me a bit, and that then leads me somewhere else. There's no, your child has this diagnosis, this is what you need to look at. Or even these, immediately, this is where you start and it will lead you on to where you need to go. There's no, I mean, speech and language was probably the place we started. Yeah. And if they had said, you should look on this website, it'll give you all the stuff about being need to send, and start from there, and it'll give you a starting point. That would be super helpful. And then you wouldn't be fumbling around for 2 years until you stumble across what you need.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's.
Can we move on? Because I'm conscious of time. I think I think there's some food for thought, and I think a very valid comment. Anybody else have a question? Jen, do you want to unmute and?
Yeah. Hi. Basically, I have a child with special needs, and about 1.5 years ago, I have a little girl, and I'm a connected person, so like a kinship, but we don't have any social services involved anymore, because I'm a special guardian. And is there any information like for children with needs like that, for attachment and things like that, and their families? Because obviously it's a big, it's more emotional really for families and a child.
So are you not getting any support or advice about that through the looked after children service or anything like that?
No, because she's not a looked after child anymore, because I'm a guardian. So she was, but not anymore. And she also lived in a different borough. So now she's come to live in this borough. It's different local authorities. So it's kind of, I weren't sure if there's any information, for families like me in the local, in the community.
What I would do, because it's quite specific, is I would probably make an inquiry through the single point of access and explain to them what you're looking for. And then they will be able to signpost you to other services that may be able to signpost you to online support around that, or tell you, share any resources they've got. Because I'm sure those kinds of things do exist, but maybe you have to be in with certain services to access them, but they certainly would be available to them. So you can either email me through the website, or the contact details that'll be on the presentation. Just explain a little bit more about it, and then I can certainly inquire internally to find out. How old is she? Did you say?
She's just turned 6.
Okay. The other thing which I didn't mention is, and it's in that COVID advice section, is I know it's not specifically to do with COVID, but at the moment there's a Send Advisory support line on available. And what you can do, there's a phone number for it. There's also an online form. So I would suggest you could fill that in, fill the form in and submit it. It's best, I think, to fill the form in and submit the information beforehand, rather just ringing them up cold, and let them have a think about your needs. And somebody will call you back from whatever service to suggest what support you can access. And that's available to anyone. But that's a really good way in to sort of say, look, this is the support we're needing at the moment.
Yeah, because she has special needs, but it's more
it's her emotional needs and how to deal with all that. Yeah, that's fine. I would fill that Send Advisory support form in.
Okay.
And then that's looked at by multi-professionals, and then they'll say, well, this is probably best going to the emotional health service, and somebody will call you back and give you some resources and advice.
Okay.
Where would we find that form, Karen?
In that COVID section on their local offer, you'll see it says send advisory support. And as I say, it does have a phone number on there, but it also has an online form. And my suggestion would be fill the online form in, because then the people on the other end of it can have a look and have a think. And then they will probably call you back. But if you didn't hear, within a couple of days, then ring the number. But at least then they've got all that information in front of them when they're talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions?
On the whole website, any page you go on, you'll see there's three little faces, and it says feedback about this page. So if you've got any feedback or suggestions, you can use that to feedback, was the page useful or wasn't it useful, or suggestions. Because as I say, we do try to co-produce it. And, sometimes me just managing the website by myself, I'm so familiar with it. It sometimes needs somebody from the outside using it to point out something so obvious, like having that new to send section, that can make it more useful for you. So from what Norma was saying, I've now got in my head that rather than just having a poster which says here's the local offer website, we could expand that more so that the new to send section was maybe in a 4-page little fold out leaflet or something like that. Yeah. And we can get round to deliver them physically, and you won't get COVID from touching one of my leaflets. So that might be later in the year.
Right. Any other questions from anybody else?
So Annette, I don't know if I can see that there's 30 comments in the chat. It'd be nice if you could capture those and send those to me.
I can send them to you. We've had some really helpful comments, and yeah, we have a separate recording of the questions in the chat too.
That will be fabulous, and then I can have a look at them. And if there's anything I can clarify, I can send that back to you, and you can post that on the website with the presentation.
Fabulous. Yes. No, we can do that. We can provide feedback to the participants. Okay. Well, Karen, I think you've done a terrific job at really talking us through the website. I must say, I think the website is incredibly well designed. And I think you really need to get a huge pat on the back, because I know it's a labor of love, putting something together like that. Your session, you'll see from the comments we've had from participants in the chat bar, people have found it incredibly helpful. So with that, I'm going to close our evening. Just to remind everybody, we've got our next session on managing family dynamics, which is going to be run by Fintan O'Regan, who many of you may have heard talking before, but he's a great speaker, and he talks about managing family dynamics for children with ADHD. So with that, Karen, thank you so much, and thanks everybody for participating.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.